A young professional mysteriously vanishes on a night out.
My mind starts racing. What happened?
Her friends and family turn to the police for help.
Is this material for her? Has she not done this before?
The case is headline news.
After this breaks, it quickly becomes a national and an international story.
Leaving a community in fear.
And people are freaked out about this.
Investigators are desperate for clues.
There weren't any signs of forced entry.
So they turn to surveillance video.
She's not walking, she's running.
To reveal a sinister truth.
It was almost like out of a scene of a horror movie.
Apartments TV. We're here at the Edge Orlando Apartments near UCF. Let's go see what they have to offer.
27-year-old Sasha Samsudean is the social media manager for an Orlando real estate agency.
She started as a part-timer and eventually became our director of operations.
She would advertise the amenities of an apartment and what they had to offer and everything.
You want to use your hands a little bit? Hi, I'm Sasha.
I don't know how to do that without looking really awkward.
Sasha's personality on camera matched her personality in real life.
Sasha's beautiful. She just has a unique look to her, and her smile would light up a room.
I think a lot of people underestimated Sasha. They would see a pretty face.
Hey guys, yes. Okay.
I don't think that they understood just how smart she was.
Woohoo! I don't know what else to say.
Sasha has recently moved into a high-end downtown apartment.
Sasha was very excited to move downtown. She was very independent, didn't have hesitations to live alone at all.
And she's loving it.
Sasha worked hard, and then she would enjoy every second of the day. I guess they say work hard, play hard, always making the most of each moment.
She loves to socialize, and today provides a perfect opportunity to see her friends.
On Friday, October 16th, it was the last day of Orlando City Soccer's season.
Every soccer fan in town is watching the game.
The color of Orlando City Lions is purple. And so she was wearing the shirt to match the theme of the team.
When the Lions win, it's time to celebrate.
We felt like letting our guard down and just having a good time. Sasha, who's always dancing, always the life of the party, she got along with everybody.
After a few hours dancing, Sasha heads for the exit.
It was about 12:30. Sasha decided to leave. I wasn't sure if she was gonna either go home or go to another bar and meet up with some more friends. We did that often. We'd separate for a little bit or meet back up.
See you later.
I didn't think anything of her leaving the club.
The next morning, Sasha has plans to meet Anthony for breakfast, but she doesn't show.
I sent her a text message asking if she was okay. I didn't hear back, so I assumed that she was hungover, still sleeping.
Hours pass by, and Anthony still hasn't heard from Sasha.
It's very out of the ordinary to not hear from her because Sasha was very, very active on social media, text messaging and everything. So I reached out to her closer friends. Nobody else had heard from her.
Hey, Katie.
I decided to gather her friends, Katie and Megan, to just go to her apartment and see if she was okay.
In the parking garage, they spot Sasha's car.
She was supposed to go to a baby shower that day. and we noticed that the gift was still in the back of the car. It was at that point where I started getting really suspicious that something was very wrong.
Sasha's friends need to know if she's at home, so they slip inside the building to find out.
We went to her door and we knocked.
Sasha!
No response. Worry was just boiling over at this point, so we ended up calling the authorities.
Hi, I need to fill out a missing persons report. We went to her apartment to go check. She's there, and she's on.
And what is her first name?
Her first name is Sasha.
That one was the last time you saw her?
I'd let them know that we called every hospital, called every jail, that we went to her door to go knocking, that we saw her car.
Is this peculiar for her? Has she not done this before? Is she suicidal? Do you think she would hurt herself or others?
Absolutely not.
Officers are dispatched to Sasha's apartment.
When the officers arrived, a large part of me was still just like, hey, she's playing a joke on us, or she just felt like having a day away from everything.
Accompanied by the building security guard, police go inside. An initial sweep reveals nothing alarming. But there's no sign of Sasha.
Then one of the officers who was in the master bedroom turned and saw that there was a tuft of hair and a hand sticking out from underneath the comforter.
Sasha Samsudean has been brutally murdered.
The comforter was lifted up just enough to be able to see what appeared to be strangulation marks on Miss Samsudean's neck.
We were waiting for the response from the officers to see if they found her inside of her apartment. And just based on the body language of the officer that was approaching me, I knew right away. The emotions were a lot of confusion, a lot of anger, a lot of disappointment, and I didn't know how to handle it.
CSI and detectives analyze the crime scene.
There was a lot of evidence early on that it was a homicide.
They discover that Sasha's purse, cell phone, and key fob are missing. And there's something else.
There was an unusual smell of cleaning supplies. There was an open door to one of her cupboards where cleaning supplies were kept. One of the things that is suspicious about smelling cleaning supplies on someone is that chemicals like bleach can destroy DNA evidence.
CSI move into the bathroom.
Investigators found 2 latent fingerprints on the underside of the toilet seat lid. For a woman who lived by herself, it was very unusual for the toilet seat lid to have been left up.
Detectives now look for signs of a break-in.
There weren't any signs of forced entry. They believe that she either invited somebody inside or somebody had access to get in.
As evidence is collected, investigators turn their attention to the building security.
One of the highlights of a place like the Uptown Apartments is they also did have a security guard walking around patrolling the building.
Are there any cameras? Through here.
The security guard explains that the building is monitored by several surveillance cameras.
There was cameras at each entrance, each exit, and then in the stairwells.
There and there.
And I believe on each floor. So there's about 15 different cameras that we were able to use.
With so many cameras, Detectives hope that surveillance footage will reveal Sasha's killer. 27-year-old Sasha Samsudean has been found brutally murdered in her own apartment. Detectives hope the building security cameras will show them what happened.
There and there.
But the footage is stored off-site and will take time to recover. The tragic news is hard for Sasha's friends to take.
We wanted to notify her parents that Sasha had passed away.
I'm so sorry.
When you first get the text message, it's almost a denial. It doesn't seem real. You'll never fully understand why something like that has to happen. But we went over to her parents' house that day with some of their other close friends and family just to be there for them and bring food and just be with them at that time.
Mrs. Samsudean, I'm sorry. I have to go. The police are here.
My mind starts racing, like, what happened? Who did this? How did this happen? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Detectives want to know how a killer gained access to the Uptown apartments. So to fully understand the building security systems, they turn to the security guard who was on duty. He recalls seeing Sasha coming home.
He did remember seeing Miss Samsudean trying to gain entry into the building, but he did not let her in.
There are two ways to get into the building. You can either use a key fob, or if you're a resident, you can dial your cell phone, the call box, and just call your cell phone. I guess there's a numerical combination. You punch in that, and it'll buzz the door open. She's not able to do either. No, because she didn't have her phone with her.
The security guard explains that Sasha then slipped into the building behind another resident.
So you go into the building, and what happened? And I started sweeping floor by floor to find where she was. Eventually I was able to locate her because she was stumbling around, crashing into the wall. Her footfalls were just slap, 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 slap.
Sasha is clearly intoxicated, so he offers to help.
Eventually she did make it to her apartment, and she was trying to use the digital key number on it to get into it, but I don't know if she was inputting the wrong code or something, but it wasn't working. At which point she thought maybe she left her keys at her car, so she asked me if I would walk with her out to the parking garage. And we went out, and we didn't even go to any car, because maybe 5 steps out, she's like, wait, I think I remember the code now. I then bring her back to the thing. She starts trying to punch in codes again, it's still not working. At this point, I'm like, oh, I gotta keep doing my job. So I'm gonna go do another sweep, and if I come back and you're still not in your apartment, we're gonna have to figure out how to deal with the situation. When I came back, she wasn't there.
That was around 3 a.m., and there's something else.
I think I saw her again at some point later on in the evening. It didn't really document it because I wasn't sure, and there was nothing suspicious about what she and the gentleman I saw her with were doing. They were just walking in the hallway. On the 3rd floor? I'm not 100% sure. I was doing my sweeps, and I was just walking around. Are you sure it was her? Not because it looked like she might have been wearing something different. I couldn't tell you what, though. Can you describe that guy? Caucasian male, average build, either brown or sandy hair, and was wearing a polo and some slacks. Did you see anyone going to apartment 345? No. So after possibly seeing her with this guy you just described, did you ever see her again? No. What time did you shift me? 6 a.m.
The security guard has provided a detailed picture of Sasha's movements from arriving at the building to entering her apartment. While they wait on the CCTV, detectives turn their attention to Sasha's journey home from the nightclub.
We have cameras all over Orlando. They're called iris cameras. It was learned that Miss Samsudean had been downtown. So there's going to be footage along Orange Avenue, which is the main strip in downtown Orlando that runs north to her apartment complex.
Sasha had to travel 10 blocks north on Orange Avenue to get home. It's likely her journey was caught on CCTV. They start with a camera next to the Attic nightclub.
If they can see anything on that footage as to who she is with, is a stranger involved, any of that information will help solve the case.
They know from Anthony what time she left.
Okay, let's start with Orange Avenue and Central Boulevard around 12:30 in the morning.
They start scanning the footage.
Miss Samsudean's friend had indicated that she had left the bar alone.
It's a busy night in downtown Orlando. Pinpointing Sasha will be tough.
I don't see anything.
They rewind and play it frame by frame. There's no sign of her, so they switch cameras.
Stop. Punch in.
That's her.
Eventually, the iris cameras were able to pick up Miss Samsudean because she was wearing white pants that evening. It didn't appear that there was anybody that was following her. She appeared to be alone.
She's stumbling, but she's heading the right direction if she's going home.
As she leaves shot, detectives switch cameras again.
Do you have anything going further north?
That's her.
They see her in the corner of shot. Only now she's running. They wait to see from who. But suddenly, she vanishes.
What?
They rewind and watch again. Six seconds are missing. It's a glitch in the footage. Investigators have no idea where Sasha has gone. Desperate to find her again, they switch to a camera further up Orange Avenue.
That's her.
They find her.
She's with somebody.
It looks like they know her. Looks like two women.
They punch in, hoping to make an ID.
I can't see their faces. It's too grainy.
Let's go to the next one.
All three continue their journey together until they move out of view. Investigators need to identify who Sasha was with.
It's important to try and track down those two individuals.
They turn to the news media for help.
Press releases are important to police investigations because when they hit walls, they need the public's help.
Sasha's murder was the top story in Orlando. It was everywhere.
These type of horrific stories you see on TV or you hear about, but you never think it would hit so close to home and to be somebody that you love. I think it still doesn't seem real.
After this story breaks and local media start covering it, it quickly becomes a national and an international story. People cared about this. What you have is an attractive, intelligent young girl in a safe apartment, and she winds up dead. And people are freaked out about this.
The media attention pays off. Having recognized Sasha on the news, 2 girls come forward.
I saw her, so...
You guys know her, or...?
No, we were downtown on Friday night, but as we were leaving, saw her walking by herself, and was very concerned, just because she seemed extremely intoxicated. And there was a car of men who had rolled down their window and started to talk to her. I walked up and kind of took her arm and said, like, do you know where you're going? And you could tell she didn't really know what was going on, and so at that moment got her to get into an Uber with us. She didn't have her ID or anything, like, in her bag. Didn't have a phone, anything like that. So
you guys did bring her back up to the...
So we get to the red light at Orange and Marks, and she, as soon as the car stopped, she, like, left out of the car and ran across the street to Uptown Place. So she's like, this is where I live. We're like, oh, well, then that's perfect. Like, she didn't remember enough to tell us, but she recognized it when she saw it.
The 2 girls are just good Samaritans.
How certain are you that it's her? Pretty...
100%.
Okay. You remember what she was wearing?
Yes. White jeans and a purple shirt.
The girl's story explains how Sasha made it home, but it doesn't reveal her killer. Investigators now turn to the CCTV from Sasha's building.
Over here, the video's in.
What investigators will always hope for on video footage is the suspect. And if you can't see the actual suspect, maybe you can see people who did see or hear something unusual.
They press play, hoping to catch a murderer. Witnesses confirm that Sasha Samsudean made it home safely the night she was murdered. Now CCTV from the apartment building will show what happened next. Detectives start with the camera covering the entrance.
The first time Sasha's seen on surveillance video is at 1:46 a.m. It appears she's alone. A couple seconds later, behind her comes another man in a black shirt and gray shorts.
On the surveillance video, you can hear an unknown male voice asking her whether or not she's okay, and her answering back that she was.
They switch cameras.
The next bit of footage showed her entering a stairwell a couple of minutes later at about 1:48 and going up the stairs. And with the audio, particularly in a cement stairwell, you could really hear her flip-flops.
Rewind it.
They keep watching to see if Sasha is still being followed.
There doesn't appear to be anybody following her.
Okay, let's go to the next.
Detectives switch cameras again. But Sasha doesn't come into view. They trawl through footage from the multiple cameras, anxious to find her. There's no sign of her until 20 minutes later, Sasha reappears.
At 2:06, another camera in the building picks Sasha up, but she's not walking, she's running. Police want to know who she's running from. It could be the person that killed her. was almost like out of a scene of a horror movie.
But as they play on, a familiar figure comes into view.
And that's when they realize that he's wearing a security uniform.
It's the security guard, Stephen Duxbury. When interviewed, he stated that when he caught up to Sasha, he offered to help her get inside her apartment. He said Sasha thought her keys were in her car, so detectives switched to the camera covering the parking garage to see if his story checks out.
At 2:25, the pair are seen walking towards the first floor parking garage.
You can hear that they're speaking to one another. You just can't make out the content of what they're saying.
They exit the building.
This corroborates the security guard's story that he's helping Sasha find her key fob.
Shortly after, they both return in from the parking garage.
His story checks out. So detectives now turn their attention to the mystery man the security guard thought he saw with Sasha later that night. He couldn't be sure of a time, so they'll need to search through hours of footage to find him. Three days after Sasha's murder, her family prepared to say goodbye.
The gathering for Sasha's funeral was massive.
I don't think anyone knew quite how popular Sasha Samsudean was until her funeral. We were able to gather video clips from Sasha showing that gregarious, just amazing personality.
You want me to start talking? Ready to go? Yeah. Hey guys and girls, I'm Sasha here. I don't know what sorry. It's okay.
After the service, when we walked out, there was a huge rainbow and just like a sign that she's okay.
At Orlando PD, the medical examiner's report is ready to view.
In addition to collecting evidence in the apartment, there's evidence that is collected from the body. And DNA swabs were taken on Ms. Samsudean's body. And foreign DNA belonging to a male suspect was found on her.
The cause of death is confirmed as strangulation.
One would generally expect that to be a crime of passion and potentially with somebody who knew her.
Investigators focus on all of Sasha's ex-boyfriends.
Police want to speak to Taylor Unsinger. They dated from 2013 to 2015.
Sasha's ex-boyfriend, 27-year-old Taylor, is a downtown bartender who works just a few blocks away from the apartment building.
When did you guys break up?
End of March.
This year?
Yes.
Okay, so end of March 2015. Just tell me what the breakup was over, who broke up?
It was a mutual thing.
That time, did she see anybody else?
She didn't really share any, information about who she was dating or who she was seeing.
How did you feel about that?
We weren't exclusive or anything like that, so.
Was there any talk about trying to get back together?
We didn't really talk about it, but it was something that I always thought that we would.
Do you know where you were last Saturday? Around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Let's say late Friday evening or early Saturday morning.
I was home. I got off of work Friday night at about 9:30. I had bartended because there were some bartenders that needed to take some time off, so I picked up a shift for them.
Do you have any problem giving us a buccal swab of DNA?
I have no problem.
Okay.
The buccal swab is sent for analysis, and police follow up on Taylor's alibi. It checks out, and his DNA isn't a match, so he's dismissed as a suspect. Desperate for new leads, detectives hope data recovered from an iPad found in Sasha's apartment might ignite the investigation.
During a homicide investigation, almost every piece of digital evidence is going to be collected at the scene. And the reason is we keep all sorts of different information on our phones and on our iPads.
Thanks for the call.
You can have the same data on your iPad as you do with your phone. And so in this particular case, with her phone missing, the iPad was more important than it normally would have been.
They focus on a text message exchange that occurred almost 3 hours after Sasha was last seen on camera. Could this be a conversation with a killer? Detectives investigating the murder of Sasha Samsudean.
These ones here?
Have discovered a text message that could reveal the killer. Sasha sent a text at 5:12 a.m.
5:12's the last message.
The communication simply says, Ben.
The iPad contains his contact details. They dial the number. Dan answers and agrees to come in for questioning.
How do you know Sasha?
We dated my freshman and sophomore year of college, so we were pretty close for a long time, and then we split up, and then we've been hanging out a lot recently since, we both live in town.
When was the last time you seen her?
I saw her Thursday night. We went out downtown.
Could it have been Friday?
No.
Okay. Did you and Sasha have plans to meet that Friday night, Saturday morning?
We didn't have plans to meet. Like I said, we were texting to possibly meet up.
Who texts who first?
I want to say she texted me first. I started, late Friday night, early Saturday morning, around, midnight, 1 o'clock hour, somewhere around there. That was the last I heard from her until 5:12 a.m.
Okay.
And then she said, Ben. After I got that text message, I called her. She didn't respond, and that's where I asked, call me.
They press Ben for an alibi.
What time did you leave downtown?
Well, I was at a house the whole time. I didn't really go to a bar or anything. I was at my friend's house in downtown.
You were that entire all alone? You never left?
No, I was there all night.
Did you go to her apartment late Friday night, early Saturday morning at all? Okay. So we watched the cameras. We're not going to see you entering that building at all?
Correct.
The last thing, Ben, do you have any problem giving us a buccal swab?
Yeah, no, not a problem.
Okay.
I'm just happy to help in any way I can.
While DNA is sent to the lab, detectives turn back to the surveillance video to see if Ben's story checks out. They scour footage, moving from floor to floor. They watch closely, focusing on every face. But there is no sign of Ben.
After reviewing hours of this surveillance video, police come up empty-handed.
We gotta be missing something.
Ben is ruled out as a suspect, and the search is about to go cold. When suddenly, a man walks into view.
Security guard doing his rounds.
Go back. See him walk.
security guard, Stephen Duxbury, said he finished work at 6 a.m., but it's now 6:36. Detectives wonder why he's still in the building.
Freeze.
Something doesn't quite fit.
Look at that.
They see that he's carrying 2 plastic bags. They look like garbage bags.
Detectives have seen them before.
The garbage bags in Sasha's apartment had red handles too.
So when we see the security guard leaving with a white bag that could be from her apartment, it's definitely suspicious.
He walks directly out towards the second-floor parking garage.
A minute later, he walks back in empty-handed. Detectives head straight back to the Uptown Apartments to confront Duxbury.
Mind if I take a look?
Of course.
When reviewing all of his security reports, what it showed was that he did not take people's trash out. He wrote people up for leaving their trash out.
Detectives must now consider the unthinkable. That the security guard assisting in their investigation could instead be the man who murdered Sasha.
Did you ever go into apartment 345?
No. He maintained that he was never in the apartment.
Stephen Duxbury is brought back to the police department, where he consents to a polygraph.
All right, the test is about to begin. Please remain completely still and answer each question with a simple yes or no.
Now, detectives hope to get to the truth and finally bring Sasha's killer to justice.
Did you enter Sasha's apartment that night?
Investigators suspect that security guard Stephen Duxbury is involved in Sasha Samsudean's murder. To prove his innocence, Duxbury has agreed to a lie detector test.
All right, the test is about to begin.
They want to see if he's telling the truth. And what they find really blows up.
So here are the questions I'm going to ask you about that night. Okay. Okay. Did you enter Sasha's apartment that night? No.
When he is asked if he's ever been into Sasha's apartment, the needle jumps.
The interviewer turns up the heat.
Do you know if Sasha was poisoned? No. Was she stabbed? No. Was she choked? No.
The needle jumped again. Signs that he's not being truthful. Police never told the public that Sasha was strangled. That's not a piece of information Duxbury should even know at this point.
Like I said, the test lasts about 5 minutes or so. Yeah. Heart rate so high? Oh, yeah.
The lie detector confirms detective suspicions. But as the results are inadmissible in court, they need hard evidence. They turn to the lab results from the DNA found at the crime scene.
And which one is the security guard's?
It's a match.
His DNA profile was the foreign DNA on Miss Samsudean.
And there's something else.
He had left a latent fingerprint on the underside of the toilet seat in her apartment.
Investigators also turn up one more key piece of evidence.
What we discovered was his phone showed that he searched the internet that morning, about 5 a.m., how to defeat her digital lock.
On October 30th, 2015, 2 weeks after Sasha's death, Stephen Duxbury is arrested and charged with first-degree murder and attempted sexual battery.
Miss Samsudean went out with her friends, got a ride home from 2 Good Samaritans, and then got into her apartment complex. Mr. Duxbury took it upon himself a couple hours later to try and search how to get into her apartment. I don't think there was motive other than just opportunity. And maybe he believed that she was flirting with him because she talked to him for a little while. Who knows?
In November 2017, he's found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
The way I presented the evidence to the jury at trial was very chronological. It was fantastic to have all that video to help tell the story of where she was and when downtown. And then it paints a picture of all of her movements inside of the apartment complex. It's important to be able to tell a complete story. It's just a tragic story of somebody who invaded somebody else's personal space in the most awful way and then took that person's life.
She was in her house. She's sleeping. She has the door locked. And the person who's supposed to take care of her is the person who killed her.
Today, Sasha's legacy lives on.
A year later, her mom approached a group of us and said, I'd like to have a memorial service for Sasha.
Everybody got dressed up and we released some balloons. The balloons were red, Sasha's favorite color. We wanted to make it more of a celebration of her life and all of the amazing qualities that she possessed.
Sasha was such a beautiful soul who cared about so many people. It is a damn shame that she's not here for us. But I'll tell you, she made such an impact in the years that she was alive. I can't imagine that most people make that impact an entire full lifetime.